Real pleasure. Coming over to sit down with me is Dan Rather. It's a pretty exciting opportunity for me to talk to someone. I don't know if you recall, but I sat on a panel with you on MSNBC a couple years ago, and it was one of the highlights of my career. So I really do appreciate your sitting down with us.
No, happy to do it.
So, Dan Rather, you've been watching conventions, obviously, for a long time.
This is my 31st.
31st convention, and give me a sense of where this fits. I mean, both sort of in terms of what's happening with the convention, but also where the country is now.
Well, first of all, we haven't finished with the Democratic convention, so we're going to wait till the end of both conventions before we make a judgment. I would say this is among the more interesting presidential election years. As presidential election cycles go, we're talking about the whole cycle of the president. One of the more interesting, and obviously because of Donald Trump, who's something new on the political scene. Yes, he has some bloodline politically to George Wallace, maybe William Jennings Bryan way back in the 19th century, but we never had anyone quite like Donald Trump, a business tycoon who became a reality show star, megastar, and celebrity, who's never held any public office before, never mind running before. He's never held even an appointive office, who has mastered the new media. If he's elected president, he'll be the first social media president in the same way that John Kennedy was really the first television president, Franklin Roosevelt was the first radio president. In terms of the conventions, that again, Trump overshadows both conventions. What you basically had is partly because the Republicans were first, that he set the agenda.
Right.
Now, the Democrats come back. In a way, they have an advantage being second. And by the way, you know how that goes. The incumbent party always comes second at the conventions. But the Democrats now, they can look at the Republican convention, the phenomenon of Donald Trump, whether you like him or not, and say to themselves, A, to what do we have to respond? And secondly, what didn't the Republicans and Trump do that we need to do? An example would be, I was somewhat surprised. Donald Trump, in his acceptance speech, never mentioned the troops abroad. He never mentioned our fighting men and women. This is unusual, but particularly for a Republican candidate for president not to do so. I don't mean this critically. I'm prepared to be critical of other things, but just analyzing. He never mentioned the troops overseas. Now, the Democrats have an opportunity to say, in effect, without actually saying it, but signal, you know what? Donald Trump ignored our troops overseas, and General Allen, who speaks tonight, will address that. But does Hillary Clinton mention that or not?
Right.
That's the sort of thing. In the history of conventions, I don't think either of these conventions will go down as one of the greats, if you will, or most remembered. If either one is, it's more likely to be the Trump convention because of the phenomenon of Trump. But I say that keeping in mind that it sort of gets glossed over. This is the first and only presidential nominating convention that's ever nominated a woman to run the party. So if you're looking at somebody writing the history books of conventions 50 or 100 years from now, they may very well mention this Democratic convention because it nominated a woman.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I wonder if, in your opinion, has there been a wholesale change in the rules, like the not the rules per se, but the laws of gravity, right, in how it deals with these? Because Donald Trump has, in many respects, bucked all of the conventional wisdom in terms of who's supposed to win a nomination, right? I mean, there's been a lot of academic research about the question of, you can't, I mean, theoretically, right? This is why a lot of academics missed the Donald Trump phenomena. You can't win the election, the primary, without the support of the party apparatus, and he did so.
Exactly.
And the traditional, you can't win without some type of very strong ground game. I mean, this is a guy who went on like one campaign stop per week, which is, he didn't do any of the retail politicking that we've come to, I guess, believe and assume is necessary.
Well, absolutely true. And we're about to find out whether in the modern era can anyone win the presidency, win the election without what conventional wisdom said were the fundamentals of organizing at the precinct level, carrying right at the state level, using big data to pinpoint what voters are for you and against you. Trump has none of that. Now, so far he's succeeded by turning conventional, let's call it the standard political book, he's thrown out the window. We'll see going forward whether he continues to do that. But there are more important aspects of his throwing the book out the window. Before Trump, no candidate for the presidency could have survived going on television and mocking a person in the audience, a reporter, who had physical and nerve-centered health difficulties. This crossed a line. Republican presidents of the past, Lincoln, Theodore Roosevelt, Dwight Eisenhower, Ronald Reagan, they wouldn't think of doing such a thing. My point is the line of what was considered to be civility and decency that no candidate could cross. Before Trump, any candidate for the presidency who was seen mocking someone in that form would have been out immediately.
In a moment, yeah.
But with Trump, not only he survived it, but he thrived after it. Second, there's a long list of these, but to criticize John McCain for his service to his country, whatever you think of John McCain,
right,
in prison 6.5 years in North Vietnamese prison, and then ridiculing McCain for that, particularly being a person as Trump was, who's never served in the U.S. military. Again, no candidate before Trump could have survived that.
Well, is this indicative of Trump, or is it indicative of what has happened to the base of the Republican Party? Or rather than what's been happened to where they've been nurtured, how they've been sort of massaged? I mean, are we looking, is Trump the phenomena, or are we just at a tipping point of what has happened with the Republican Party? And this is the final question.
That's an insightful question. I'm not sure is the straight answer, but I lean a bit to the tipping point. I think for so long the Republican Party has played directly to people's fears, resentment, anger, with, yes, a mix of racial prejudice into it. They seem to succeed for a long time, but now it's coming to fruition the other way. But beyond that question, having said it's insightful, the more important question is what's happened to the country, not just the Republican Party. Are we or are we not a people who will accept mocking in public someone who has a health weakness? Are we as a country, as a people, as a society at the point where you can dismiss and even criticize and try to humiliate somebody who spent 6.5 years in a prison company? That's the big question that's going to get decided in November.
Indeed. Dan Rather, a real pleasure for me. I got to take a selfie because
of course
of us. Thank you very much. And I'm actually doing that on air.
Here,
so
cover this microphone.
Oh, well, I don't know. Yeah. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your stopping by. Thank you. Have a great rest of the convention.
Good luck, Godspeed.
Hello, you. I'm Sam Seder. Looking for smart progressive talk that is occasionally amusing? Well, subscribe to our YouTube feed. Subscribe to our podcast. Like us on Facebook. And just generally enjoy us.